Hey everyone, sorry it's so late tonight. We had a busy day with softball and had meetings after work and everything, so got crazy hair and it's been a long day, but I apologize for being late, but I wanted to come and talk to you about planting methods and continue my garden series. So I'm Brandy from Brandy Gale Health and Fitness, and like I said, I'm continuing my garden series tonight and talking about planting methods. So first off, like I said, I'm a beginning gardener, so I did my first garden last year, so by all means, do your own research and see what you find. I'm just trying to give tips of things that I found while I was doing my planting. Now, something that I do is that I tend to jump full feet in without knowing exactly what I'm doing, and because I'm a kind of laid back person and say, hey, if it didn't work, it didn't work, I gave it a shot. So, when I was planting my plants last year, I had bought several plants, and when I was planting them, I quickly realized that I didn't have enough room because I started to lay them out before I actually dug them into the ground, and I couldn't space them the package directions and get all of them in the garden. And actually, I kind of staggered things to be able to try to make it work so that I was probably, I don't know if that's a traditional way to do it or not, but that's what I was doing to get things in my garden. I also tried another untraditional method of trying to grow your summer squash and zucchini up inside an upside down tomato cage. And like I already explained, that the squash didn't work out for two reasons. One, I had some kind of a bug. I was told later that it was a mite that was eating my squash, and so excuse me. So my squash didn't work out that way, but also I discovered when I was trying to, I had one plant that was continuing to fight against these bugs, and it reroots itself into the soil, so it will reroot itself during the growth. And so it actually, well, some plants maybe can grow up. This particular plant that I planted needed to be in the ground so it could continue to reroot itself and nurture itself. So just things that you learn along the way. Another thing that I learned last year that I am going to do better this year is that I put my tomato plants on like I explained, my garage is the back of the bed and the front is off to the yard, and I put my tomato plants at the front of the bed, and they got to be so big that my pepper plants didn't get the sun, so I'm going to put the tomatoes up against the garage this year and put the peppers closer to the front and see if that helps my peppers this year. So planting methods. There's a traditional method which like I said, I was thinking to myself tonight that, I don't know if there really is a traditional way to plant a garden, because a garden, of course, is our own creations and we plant the plants that we want in there. So but a traditional garden, I would say, is rows. So you plant a whole row of this or two rows of this, and then the next row is something different. So that's what I would call a traditional garden. And the spacing in all of these methods, the spacing of the plants, of course, depends on the packaging for the plant itself. So if you're buying seeds and starting seedlings, it will tell you how many to plant and how far apart, and once they get big enough to separate, then that's what you're going to need to do when you plant them in the ground. If you're buying already started plants from a nursery, then they will have a tag in there that tells you exactly how far apart they need to be from each other. Another way is square foot gardening, which is a way to maximize the space. However, when I was reading up on this, I didn't realize that there was a specific soil mixture that you're supposed to use for square foot gardening. So my tips yesterday on preparing your garden may not be for you if you're going to do a square foot garden. So just keep that in mind. But a square foot garden, as it says in the title, is a garden that is split up into square feet. And then so it's set up as squares, and you can plant so many plants in each square. And the number of plants that fits in the square depends on which plant it is and how much room it needs. So I have a graphic and a website that I found helpful that I'm going to post in my blog. So check there for information. And then another way to plant is something I learned. I took a gardening class from a master gardening series that our excuse me, the University of Illinois has an extension center near my home, and they had a master gardening course. And so the guest speaker that I went to listen to uses 30-foot rows, so each row is 30 feet, or I'm sorry, not 30 feet, oh my goodness, 30 inches wide. Pardon me. So it's 30 inches wide with a foot in between, and then another 30 inches of garden, and then a foot in between. And of course, how far apart the plants are in that 30 inches depends on what you're planting. But the 30 inches wide is because you can't reach much more than 30 inches when you're standing and I am so sorry. I left my water in the other room. But you can't maintain the bed if it's more than 30 inches wide. That 12 inches in between each row is to give you room to walk up and down to harvest your vegetable garden and to be able to maintain it. So, last, I wanted to talk about, oh, excuse me, I'm so sorry. Companion gardening is something else. I know sometimes you don't want to plant a full row of something, and so companion gardening kind of tells you which plants that are okay to plant next to each other. And I have a graphic and a website that I will link you to in my blog post for that as well. So I think that kind of covers everything, and I'm sorry this was a longer video, and I know that my post is going to be super long because it's got a lot of information in it. But like I said, ultimately you need to read the package directions for the plants that you're planting and just build your garden the way you want to build it. So, you know, there's tips and things of things not to grow together, and you need to know how much space to give each plant. But other than that, have fun with it, and I hope you enjoy your garden. Join me tomorrow night, and I will be back on to talk about when to plant your plants, depending on which zone you're in, and then how to maintain a garden. So I hope to see you tomorrow night, and I promise I'll be on earlier than I was tonight. Thanks.